Two set of things. One is the Meitei's demand for scheduled tribe has been brewing for quite some time, and recently when the Manipur High Court directed the state government to state its position clear on the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, which was represented too by the Meitei Tribals Forum, there was a lot of unease as well as insecurity among the tribals, which organized public protests around these demands. So that's one thing. The second probably is the peaceful rally protests, which in effect ended up in a stray incident of beating up of a truck driver who hit a vehicle as well as run over water bottles kept for the peaceful protester. And it led to retaliatory attacks at Leisang, which is on the outskirts of Churachandpur and Bishanpur district. This in effect set the stage for the current conflagrations.
Well, the Meitei community is edging closer to scheduled tribe status. What would that mean for the people?
A set of things. One is they would, in effect, have access to tribal lands and property, which hitherto had been traditionally denied to them, because there is a symmetrical arrangement on land rights in Manipur where the tribals have exclusive land ownership rights both in the hills as well as in the valley, which the Meiteis have a deep grouse against. That's number one. The second is in terms of access to protective discrimination benefits. The Meiteis are likely to be the singular community which have enjoyed, for excess of protective discrimination, namely scheduled caste, which is ensuring 7.5% of the job opportunities both at the central as well as the state level. You have OBC, which gives 27% of reservation of posts for other backward communities, and you have EWS, economically weaker section, which give around 10%. So if you add on these to 7.5%, you would likely have a mismatch, as it were, because the Supreme Court has already decided in the Indrasoni case 1992 that the reservation ceiling at the state level or at the central level cannot exceed 50%. So a constitutional anomaly is likely to set a pace by the Meitei's successful attempt and bid to have scheduled tribe status.
So does this explain why other tribal groups who already have scheduled tribe status, such as the Kukis and the Nagas, they're so against this happening?
Yeah, certainly, because this is considered to be the surest way of dissolving not only extant ownership rights on tribal lands, but this is also going to offset the kind of protective discrimination benefits that the tribals had for long enjoyed under the constitutional framework in India.
How does this recent spate of violence compare with similar clashes that have happened in the region in the past? Can you give us a bit of a historical context here?
I think one of the things that emerged very clearly in these recent waves of communal rights is that it follows a pattern, which we witnessed recently in Nelly massacre in Assam in the 1980s, as well as in Gujarat in 2002, where the state, in effect, actively engaged itself either in being complicit or being actively preparing the grounds for such communal conflagration. So in that sense, the kind of patterns that emerge even from this is that the state has over time, pushed the integrative framework to assimilate any distinctive rights pertaining to tribal land rights. So in that sense, it follows a clear as well as broad pattern of what the U.S. political scientist Paul Brass, an expert on India, calls the institutionalized riot system.
So have authorities been able to calm the situation there at all?
I think they have been partially successful because the massive deployment of the armed force since 5th May, in effect, ensures that all the urban places are now taken care of. But the nature as well as pattern of conflagration spread across the peripheral areas. So in those areas, the presence of the army is minimal. And given that these rector mobs, in effect, now connive with the heavily armed groups across the divide, suggests that the nature of conflicts assumed more lethal. It's more visceral in terms of the consequences that they unleash.
What can they do in terms of long-term solutions to solve this problem and to quell the violence?
I think one of the things that have to be factored in is that integration is agenda, in deeply divided places like Manipur does not work until and unless that is realized, and this gives place to the accommodationist framework which is practiced in deeply divided societies around the world, including Belgium, Canada, Switzerland, Luxembourg, or Southern Sudan or other places. I think unless there is genuine effort on the part of the political leadership to accept as well as tolerate and accommodate differences across communities, Manipur is not likely to be peaceful and stable.
So Suan, just finally, what do you think will happen from now? There are some 23,000 people that have been displaced from both sides, I understand.
Yeah, one of the immediate consequences is that, across the divide, there are very extensive refugees who are safely evacuated out of the, Imphal areas, as well as from Churachandpur, which is the epicenter of the initial riots. So what you do is that the level, refugees, encroachers, evictions, so and so forth, would no longer stick to a particular community, which the Meitei majoritarianism and integrationist, framers have in mind. So in that sense, I think it's going to be a very, very challenging task ahead.
Kham Khan Suan Hausing, thanks for shedding light on this issue. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.